Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about a budget-friendly, $260 specifically budget-friendly device from Xiaomi. It's called the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and this was actually a surprise gift inside of that package that I received a couple of weeks ago because this one was actually included in an envelope. So it's a budget-friendly device with a 6.67-inch display that has a 64 megapixel camera, a 5000 milliamp battery that is supported by a 30 watts charger that's included in the box. But again, all of this for $260. Let's see if the rest that comes with this, obviously the Snapdragon 720G, is capable of providing us a good experience at that price point. This is TK, let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So here we have it. This is the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now they didn't send me an entire box. Actually, this was included in a package, a small package included in that massive box a couple of weeks ago. But again, the device itself actually has a lot of good characteristics, and in the US, and I'll give you guys a link for that in the description below, it's selling for $260, basically unlocked out the door. Now it's not a 5G device, it's a 4G LTE because it is running the Snapdragon 720G, which is a 4G LTE chipset. So we don't have any kind of 765 or 865, so just keep that in mind. The display that we have here is a 1080p IPS panel, basically a size of 6.67 inches. We have a 64 megapixel, that's going to be the primary camera. We have 6 gigs of RAM with 128 gigs of internal storage, and this will support 2 SIM cards and an SD card. It's not one or the other, so you can actually support 2 full SIM cards, the standard SIM cards of course, with a 5000 milliampere battery that's supported with that 30 watt charger that's included in the box. So far, just to be kind of at the beginning, we're looking at a lot of good things, and we haven't even turned it on and obviously start talking about the actual UI and everything like that. Now, before we go too far, we definitely want to talk about the camera setup that we have here. We have a quad camera setup on the front, on the back, and a front-facing camera that is a 16 megapixel camera. Now, the cameras on the back, we have the main camera sensor, as I mentioned to you guys, is a 64 megapixel camera at f1.9. It's basically a 26 millimeter wide angle lens. An 8 megapixel ultra wide that's at 119 angle, basically at f2.2, a 5 megapixel macro sensor, and as well as a 2 megapixel depth sensor for bokeh, or basically depth information for those portrait images. Last but not least, we are capable of shooting up to 4K 30 frames per second, all the way down to basically 720p at 30 frames per second. So those are the things, and we do have EIS in here, as well as the fact that we can do slow-mo at 960 frames per second. So as far as the front-facing camera here, it's a punch-hole style camera present right there at the top, and it is capable of shooting up to 1080p 30 frames per second, and it is a 16 megapixel sensor at f2.5. So 1080p 30 on the front maximum, 4K 30 on the back, which is going to be the maximum. Again, the 720G as a processor does not support 4K 60 frames per second at this time. When we look on the About section, again, this is running the April 1st security patch update, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage, out of which I have 94 gigs left. It is running Android 10.0 with MIUI 11.0.1. So running the latest version of MIUI directly from Xiaomi on here with 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. And again, as I mentioned to you guys, this is the Snapdragon 720G as the processor. On the bottom, we have a single firing speaker, no stereo speakers, of course, USB-C for data charging, as well as a headphone jack that's present here with the built-in EQ to support it. On the top, we have one of the microphones, an IR blaster, of course. On the right side, the fingerprint sensor is present as part of the power button. So let's go ahead and lock it. And it is actually super fast. So let's go ahead. I barely put my finger on it and it even unlocked it. And I don't have to actually press it. You can configure it, of course, and it does also support face unlock. So let's go ahead and lock it up. Double tap. Actually, we'll go ahead and unlock it. So you notice this is the lock screen and unlocking it. So face unlock and fingerprint unlock as well as pin. Now on the left, we have that SIM tray that's capable of supporting 2 nano SIM cards as well as an SD card. So you're able to expand the storage on this. And that's pretty much it. The overall experience otherwise is actually pretty simple, pretty clean. So the overall UI is pretty clean. Again, MIUI 11, Google Feed is sitting on the left. We have all of our apps sitting over here. I installed PUBG, I installed Call of Duty, of course. And I did run a benchmark real quick on this. Again, this is running the 720G. So overall, from a single core standpoint, 574 for single core and 1749 for multi-core. Not too shabby, but again, mid-range processor. It's not the 765, but again, it does support, again, 4G LTE, and I do have my SIM card installed. And I did run a speed test on this not that long ago. Again, overall, depending on where you are, you should be able to get pretty good speed. So about 22, 23 down, and of course, about almost 4 up. Again, on 4G LTE, this is on T-Mobile, and they should be able to work on both T-Mobile and AT&T in the US without any problems. Even though this is an IPS LCD panel, Xiaomi does include the dark mode, so you have the ability of turning on dark mode automatically. You just have to go ahead and swipe to the right side and then turn it on. Out of the box, this is how it comes in with the light mode on, so you can turn it on. We have Mi Share supported in here, so a hotspot, of course, casting to casting services, so I like Chromecast, screen recording built in, do not disturb, and of course we have lock screen, location, rotating off, reading mode, and of course flashlight if you'd like to be able to turn it on. We'll go ahead and turn that off. And into the settings, again, this is pretty much the standard MIUI interface. You haven't seen it before. They're categorized slightly differently than most of our Android devices in the US. But the main thing about it is running basically running Android 10.0 with MIUI 11. It does have basically, or it is running the latest version of the operating system, and it also has no updates that came out about it with the device. So go ahead and check on system update. There is no updates waiting for it. And again, you should be able to actually get a pretty good experience. And as far as the actual setup overall, everything pretty much looks very similar to some of the other Android devices that we've used. MIUI does have some customizations that are built in, and you can go in and customize different things. So you have obviously the About phone. This is where you'll be able to check for any updates to the software, which there isn't any. And if there are any updates to the core applications from Xiaomi, you can go under here where it says System App Updater, and you can go from there. SIM tray, you can configure the different information if you're running a dual SIM. Wi-Fi, of course, Bluetooth, connections and sharing. You can go in there and customize your VPN, all the other options you have. Lock screen configuration, you can go in there and basically raise to wake, double tap to wake the screen, locking screen information, of course, launching camera button, and you have the ability of turning on pocket mode as well. Under sound and vibration, we have all the standard options, and of course on the bottom we have that EQ that's built in. Now this one will only activate whenever we plug in a pair of headphones, but once you put them in, you'll notice that the EQ turns on. You can turn on the equalizer and of course the Mi Sound Enhancer for the speaker to get better audio out of it. Now, sadly, this is a single firing speaker, so no dual firing stereo speakers. And we also have a device that is running at 60 frames per second, so no 90 frames per second resolution refresh rate. So still pretty good. Keep in mind, 260 bucks. Home screen configuration, you can go in there and customize it. Default launcher, you can go in there and change it if you want to be able to install, let's say, a Poco launcher or anything like that. All of those things. And of course, Google Discover, that's that feed that's sitting on the left. Swipe up to home screen to open search, you can turn that on. Otherwise, you can disable it if you don't want to do that. And of course, home screen layout, you can change it. Home screen layout setup, I changed it to 5:6. Show memory and blur app and preview. A lot of things that you can customize directly in here. Wallpapers, theme store built in, security as I mentioned, fingerprint, face unlock as well as PIN, and of course you have all the other options that you can customize. Apps, additional settings gives us access to see the language, region, full screen display to be able to turn on the gestures. As you notice, I've been using it. Notification light is present and it is sitting ever so slightly right there for notifications as well as when you're charging. Accessibility, of course, clear speaker, one-handed mode, and of course quick ball, notification light, all the things that you want to be able to customize. Digital well-being, special features are also here. So Game Turbo for gaming, this is going to be really where you're able to turn on the game boost options, and of course we'll get a chance to check that out. And I have a couple of games now, the Call of Duty as well as PUBG. Quick replies and of course second space there for dual applications if you want to log in with multiple profiles. Accounts and settings, of course your Xiaomi account, your Google account, as well as the standard account information. Let's go ahead and play a quick song just so you guys can hear how the speaker performs. We're going to play Jumbo by Alex Crindo. Went ahead and put the speaker all the way up.
Jack it up.
So the audio on the speaker is not necessarily the loudest, but it definitely sounds clear. It's just not heavy on bass. For phone calls, this is going to be perfectly fine. And of course, if you're watching movies, just keep in mind, you're going to be holding it hidden this way, and it's going to basically kind of reverberate through with your arm back to you, so it'll sound good. For best experience, of course, headphones are going to be the best way to go with. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about that camera. As I talked to you guys, we have a quad camera setup on the back, a single camera setup on the front. We do have AI built in, and you'll notice that is turned on, and it's actually trying to figure out what's going on here. It thinks it's snow. Under video, 4K 30 frames per second is going to be the maximum on the back. You are able to use the wide angle lens as well as the telephoto, but in reality that telephoto is really 2 times optical. It's basically a digital zoom, it's not real zoom. As far as photo, we have the ability of jumping in between the different sensors. We do have a dedicated 64 megapixel sensor image, and I'll show you guys a couple of pictures right now. So this one's going to be one with the standard image, which is a pixel binning down to 12 megapixels. And of course, where I'm showing you guys the full resolution capable of zooming in a lot more, which is 64 megabytes. It's not built into the main sensor, but you have the ability of turning it on. Now, as far as portrait images, I went ahead and took a picture there as well, just to show you how the portrait imagery looks like. We have a few other modes in there. Let's go ahead and jump in real quick into the video. I'll show you guys a quick sample of the 4K 30 frames per second, as well as front-facing and back-facing camera samples. So we'll go ahead and do a quick sample of the main 64 megapixel sensor here that we have on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now the maximum resolution we'll be able to get here is 4K 30 frames per second. I am shooting at 1080p 60, mostly because of the way that my timeline for this video is going to be. And again, sorry for the sun. Again, main thing you're going to be able to get here, obviously, even though this is a budget device for literally less than 300 bucks, we're getting a 64 megapixel sensor. We're also getting 4K, not 4K 30, not 4K 60, but again, a lot of good things to be said about something that is very, very, very friendly to your budget. Let's go ahead and switch over to the front-facing camera and see how the video is on that side. Now, the front-facing camera is a little bit different. The maximum resolution here is 1080p 30 frames per second. We are able to go down to 720, but there's no 4K. Still actually a really good proposition if you think about it. I mean, 4K 30 frames per second on the main sensor, a 64 megapixel sensor on a sub $300 device, and of course the ability of using a front-facing camera. And I'm hoping that the actual colors come out pretty good, with the exception of when the sun is hitting my face. That's obviously way overexposed. But again, let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you would consider for a sub $300 phone that offers us so many capable things, specifically 4K 30 as well as 1080p 30 on the main sensor and the front-facing camera as well? Now, one of the things that MIUI is known for is this little, the way the actual recent applications runs a little bit differently. So we'll go ahead and open it up. Let's go ahead and jump in real quick into PUBG. And I was playing the game actually right before we started here. I'll give it a second to load up. Now, Game Turbo will turn on automatically if I swipe up from here. So you'll see Game Turbo is turned on. You're able to customize it, turn on different functionalities between basically the resolution, connection, as well as video recording is set up in here. And you can also start it and disable it from there. So once you click away, it'll go. I'll go ahead and minimize the audio. And the overall experience on this is actually not that bad. It doesn't unfortunately give us the ability of playing at full resolution. So let's go ahead and jump in real quick into settings, and I'll show you guys what. On graphics, the best thing that we're going to be able to do is ultra and smooth. So that's going to be the best options that we get, which is actually not bad. Should be able to support 60 frames per second gameplay on this, which essentially is what we get with this. So 720G, great for gaming. And of course, you'll get the best experience. So let's go ahead and show you guys real quick a sample of some of the footage I was playing with this not that long ago. And as you can see, no drop frames, no issues with the graphics, and overall experience is actually very, very comparable. I like the fact that we're not skipping on the mid-range processor here. The 720 is quite capable. Now, jumping over to Call of Duty Mobile. Now, Call of Duty Mobile actually did get updated now, and we have something similar experience to PUBG Mobile in the way that it plays. And I want to show you guys real quick a quick sample again of a video that I just recorded as I was playing this game, and it takes a little bit longer obviously to start up. So as you guys are seeing, again, great graphics, overall performance is really good, no stuttering and no issues. You will not be disappointed with the 720G at all, especially when it comes to gaming. Camera performance is pretty good. Call performance is great. We have a massive 6.67-inch display. There's no question that this device should be able to handle everything that you guys can throw at it. And again, all for about $260 unlocked, and of course, ready for you to use on AT&T T-Mobile in the US with 4G LTE. The reason this device makes a perfect case is the fact that it is unlocked, and it is about 260 bucks, which means you're not really spending a lot of money on it. The overall experience is very similar to what we saw with their devices that are close to $1,000 bucks. And what I mean by this is we're using the MIUI launcher, which has the same features. So a lot of the things that we've normally seen up at that level. So customization, swipe down to open up notifications. The only thing I would probably say is it does come with a little bit too much bloatware. So I would recommend uninstalling them or maybe grouping them in a section, putting them in a folder and just forgetting about them. If you want to install a separate launcher, you are able to change this, so there's not really much of you're stuck to what you have there. Personally, I like the way it runs for 260 bucks. Fast charging with 30 watts charge, again, a 5,000 milliamp battery, which will last you for a long time. A combination of a 1080p panel with a 5,000 milliamp battery, and of course, fast charging. That means this device is going to last you for a long time. So if you're thinking about picking up a device that is budget friendly at about 250 bucks or so, again, very comparable in the price point of what we saw with the TCL 10L. That one was running the Snapdragon 660. This was running the Snapdragon 720G. So there's definitely a little bit better improvement as far as performance. The display is not an OLED display. It is an IPS, but again, we have dark mode that is built in part of Android 10. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of the Redmi Note 9 Pro? And again, thank you very much to Xiaomi for allowing me to check out this device and share with you guys my opinions of using it. It's a great budget-friendly device, and it definitely should be a great pleaser. And again, as long as you set your expectation at that $250 price point, there's really no issue of not having 4K 60. 4K 30 is quite possibly very, very nice. And it does support 1080p 60, which is most of the time what I shoot in anyways. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much.